The VA has changed the rules and they are now in effect. If you're a veteran working on appeal or about to file a new VA claim right now, especially if you're on medication, the playbook has changed and here's how. For years, court cases like Jones and Ingram helped veterans argue, don't judge me how I look on meds. Look at how bad my disability really is. And now the VA has written a new rule that flips existing regulation, and it now says this: depending on how you describe your symptoms, the medications you take, the side effects of those medications, and how it impacts your daily life with medication will not only determine whether you'll be service connected, but could potentially impact the VA rating. So we can expect to see more 0 or 10% VA ratings versus a 50% VA rating for common disability claims. So this rule change makes clear that winning claims now require real accredited representation and not just generic coaching or AI farm mills that are commonly advertised. You're going to need a medical, legal, and evidentiary strategy all working together to match your lived experience to the VA rating criteria. Your best approach is an informed, accredited advocate, then access your VA file, litigate bad exams via appeals, build functional and occupational evidence, and tailor every argument to specific medical and work history. So in this video, we're going to show you what changed, how it affects both new and denied claims, talk about secondary claims, and what to do for your next CMP exam or filing, because this rule is now in effect. So let's talk about the old law case and what it means. Before this new rule, VA decisions were heavily shaped by cases like Jones versus Shinitsky and Ingrams versus Collins. Now, these cases basically told the VA if the rating criteria doesn't specifically mention medication, you couldn't just deny or a higher rating or downplay severity because the medication made a veteran look better on exam day. So the focus for the examiner had to be how severe the condition really was, not just controlled at how it looked on that one medical visit. So for example, migraines were supposed to be rated by how debilitating they were, not dependent on that good day when you took the medication. Pain and orthopedic issues had to consider functional loss, like standing, walking, lifting, and again, not just a snapshot after you took your pain meds. That framework helped veterans show my symptoms can fluctuate, my medications really hide how bad my disability is, and treatment only partly works. So under this Jones and Ingram case, this was a valid argument that you were fighting for that higher rating. So what changed? The VA effectively immediately amended the 38 CFR with the new rule about how medication and treatments are now factored in. This new direction is simple and dangerous if you don't adapt your claim. Ratings will now be based on how you function with medication and treatment, and not on how severe your condition would be if you stopped everything. So if medication lowers your functional impairment, the VA wants then to rate you based on that lowered level. That is a major shift because there are many conditions that should be factored in. Like number one, you look stable today because you're taking medications. But if you stop taking the medications, you would crash out. Your treatment would change. Number two, you seem manageable for that 20-minute exam, but you're in pain and you're limited in motion after a full workday or week. Number three, the medication comes with side effects like fatigue, brain fog, GI issues, sexual problems. These are debilitating on their own. So under the new rule, those improvements on medication can be used to justify a lower rating, unless you clearly document what you still can't do, and those meds are causing side effects. So what this really means is, if you're trying to get service connection and you're not yet rated, or you're at 0 to 90, or you're trying to get service connection on either a new issue or a denied claim, this rule changes how you need to build your claim. For a direct service connection, the previous strategy was simple. It was a three-pronged approach. You needed a current diagnosis, an in-service event, like a disease or exposure, and then a nexus or a medical link between the two. Secondary service connections and how they're evaluated hasn't changed much, but here's the strategy just in case. First, you need that primary service connected disability, and then the new disability or a worsened pre-existing one. And then the medical evidence that connects the two, the primary condition. Medication's now valid in this argument, or it has been, but it hasn't really been focused on. So the initial big change is this. The VA will now look at you functioning on treatment and will decide both service connection, especially the secondary, and then the initial rating. So if your records say we're stable on meds or we're doing well without explaining what you still can't do, then you're going to get denied. So bottom line, when your service connection under this new rule, you must build and file your functional impact while you are on medication. So your diagnostic codes and a generic nexus letter is not going to cut it. So from that 3-point plan, we have a new 5-point plan. So just as we covered under the 3-point plan, under this new framework, you need a strong claim to tell a strong functional story. So think as this 5-point plan for a direct service connection as this. So nothing changed. You still need documentation in your service treatment record. You're still going to need a current diagnosis with clear documented diagnosis for each condition. And also make sure when you do that to include those secondary issues like GERD, ED, sleep problems, depression that are caused by medication. But here is the new things. Number 3, treatment regimen. This is new. So what you're actually doing, medication, therapy, devices, injections, surgery, they're all consistent with your treatment. Number 4, functional impairment with the medication. So how do you function at home, socially, at work with your current treatment plan? So here's a way to think about it. How far can you walk, stand? How long can you sit? Do you often miss work or have to cancel plans? How often symptoms break through even on medication? That's the key point. The 5th part of this plan is your occupational impairment. How your conditions affect reliability, attendance, productivity, focus, working with others, and being able to maintain steady employment while you're being treated. So the real question the VA is now asking you is, why can't the veteran do this even with reasonable treatment and medication in place? Does this change your CMP strategy? In short, yeah. This is where veterans are filing for the increases, and this is where they can win or lose their claims. So under this new rule, CMP examiners are going to focus on, well, how controlled are your symptoms? How you respond to medication and therapy? How do you function day to day with the treatment? If you say the medications help, the examiner may write stable, improved, mild, even if you're struggling to work or maintain relationships. So instead of saying that, say this, even with medication. Those are the words you want to use. So concrete examples. On medication, I still have panic attacks 2 or 3 times a week. And when they hit, I can't focus around people for hours. Another example, my migraine medication sometimes blunt the pain, but I still have to lie in a dark room. I can't look at screens several times a week. Or our last example, pain meds help me just walk to the mailbox, but I can't stand more than 10 to 15 minutes or sit through a full workday. Again, these are examples you can use, and you want to mention the side effects, such as, GERD, mood problems, other functional impairments, because all of these side effects are secondary service connections by themselves. And these specifics can now drive service connection credibility and your rating percentages. Let's talk about active claims, new claims, and appeals. If you have an active claim right now, You can expect your CMP exam to focus more on daily functioning, work history, treatment notes, and not just those diagnostic labels. You can expect those CMP examiners to lean hard on how well controlled you appear with meds. Expect lower initial ratings or denials if you and your records don't clearly show functional limitations and side effects. If you're filing a new claim, build your evidence around that 5-point formula from the start. Make sure your treatment notes and lay statements talk about your real world impairment while you're taking meds. Don't forget to claim those legitimate secondary conditions from the medication as separate issues with their own diagnoses. If you are appealing a denied decision, the argument now shifts from the VA ignored how severe my condition if I don't have meds to they ignored my condition while I was still on medication. You'll need to attack those weak exams with supplemental appeals with better medical opinions and bring in more occupational evidence from your employer so you can show your functional limitations. Accreditation matters now more than ever when you're seeking service connection. This is no longer about filing a form and hoping for the best. You're dealing with medical positioning, aligning those diagnoses and treatment and those occupational functional limits with the rating criteria and the new medication rule. You're going to need exam preparation, knowing how to tell your story honestly without minimizing your impairment. And that legal strategy or argument, choosing the right service connection theory, whether it's a direct, secondary, or aggravation, and citing those right regulations. And lastly, those evidence development, getting that right medical opinions, lay statements, and work records into the file and all aligned. And really only VA accredited agents, VSOs, and law groups like VetsForever can help you do this because we can access your VBMS file and help you with those CMP exams. We can spot where examiners misapplied the new rule or ignored those side effects. We can help you frame those secondary and aggravation claims correctly and represent you in hearings and appeals if the VA gets it wrong. Unaccredited coaches or an AI claim strategy that offer template-only services can't do that in this new environment. And that gap is difference between service connection denied or service connection granted with the appropriate rating. So what do you do next? Well, the old case law pushed VA to looking at medication and focus on underlying severity. This new rule tells VA, look, how you function with treatment, and now the standard is that's the new standard that you have to meet. So if you're trying to get service connected, your job now is to look at your records, look at your CMP exams, get the right VA representation to show your real world limitations. And even on those good medication days, make that legal argument. Use your side effects as breakthrough symptoms. Show how those issues can affect your ability to work or maintain relationships and live a stable life. Because bottom line, guys, the rules changed. Get with a VA accredited representation like VetsForever to help advocate for you using this new playbook. Don't walk into a CMP exam unprepared. And because we know you can still win with a service connection and build that VA rating that truly reflects what you live with every day.